Hello! Welcome back to episode 3 of Haddles House. This week I got to talk to Abby Gordon, who is a creative manager. She's an artist across every medium you can think of. I don't even really know where to start with her art because she does so many different cool things. Truly, there's nothing she can't do. We talk a little bit about our family because, spoiler alert, we're related. We talk conspiracy theories briefly, hit on the Mandela effect, and we talk about relationships. She has an incredible worst first date story for you. And we talk about mental health a lot. Well, it's such a fun conversation. Abby brought a really brave and vulnerable element to it. And I think a lot of you are really going to relate to what she said because mental health can be such a huge struggle. And when you have other people who can relate to what you're going through, I think it makes it a bit easier. Again, I really appreciate you all listening. And I hate to ask this because it's such a cliche, but please follow me on social media at Haddles House. And rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff. It really does make a difference. I also can't tell you how much I want to hear from you, so don't be shy. Please enjoy my conversation with Abby Gordon. Abby, how do we know each other?
Oh, it's like I can't even remember who we met through. We are cousins. Hadley is my older cousin by 5 years older than me.
Yeah.
So 5 years. I'm the baby of the family. I'm baby cousin. Our other cousin is having a baby soon. And I will say I'm excited to have another little fella in the mix. But it's tough as the baby of the family to accept the new one coming in.
I wanted to ask you about that because we've been making jokes about it, but I feel like it's actually a thing for you.
Okay, here's my thing. I just fear that I'm going to lose my title of baby cuz. As long as you guys can guarantee that will stay, then I'm chilling.
I'll still call you Young Buck.
Okay, I feel like I need to have a conversation about this.
Okay, I would love that.
One time, I texted Hadley in the middle of the night because I was like, do you have any weed? And she was like, Young Buck, I sure do. And I have been dying for you to call me Young Buck again.
Have I not?
No, and I keep calling you Big Buck, trying to evoke the Young Buck. And I will say it hasn't happened since.
That's really crazy because I'm kind of sad to tell you this. Young Buck is me being like, dude, I call a lot of people Young Buck. You are my special Young Buck, but I do.
It's like you've never even called me at one.
That's why I'm surprised because I say it a lot.
It's like I'm not your baby cuz, I'm not your Young Buck.
You're my tiny little man.
Oh, the tiny little man. Okay,
so Abby, what do you do? Tell me about it.
Yes, my title's technically creative manager at a brand called Spinelli Kilcollin, which is a fine jewelry brand in Los Angeles. They've been around for 12 years, 13 years, and it's founded by this husband and wife duo, Eva Spinelli and Dwyer Kilcollin. And I've been working for them for 2.5 years doing all their in-house photos and video projects and kind of anything media image related for them. I've been heading up, and I also do some outsourcing for them. So yeah, mainly a photographer, but official title is creative media manager.
Very cool. And people have probably seen Spinelli Kilcollin's rings on social media. They're very famous for they do the interlocking. How would you describe them?
Yeah, so their whole kind of copyrighted look is linked rings. So it's 3 rings maybe that are the same size, and they have these what are called little annulets, which are tiny little baby rings linking those bigger ones together. And we go as big as 5 bands, which you wear stacked on your finger or you can wear them across. But we're constantly dealing with Etsy dupes.
Damn.
So we're constantly in these crazy legal things. But thankfully I'm not in that line of legality of it. I just take the little pictures.
I was listening to a podcast the other day and they were talking about the Cartier love bracelets. And they got so many dupes that Cartier stopped being able to authenticate which ones were real. And so they lost all their value because even Cartier was I don't know, the fakes are too good. I don't know if that's real or not.
Oh my God. I mean, it is the fakes are too good.
Yeah.
And kind of respect.
Yeah. Okay. So your current job, creative manager.
Mm-hmm.
You're taking pictures, you're doing set designs, you're planning shoots, you're doing very cool stuff. Did you always know you wanted to do that?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I feel lucky because I think so often to hone in on your craft, you have to spend quite a few years learning it, and then also like kind of establishing proof of concept and like legitimacy in the industry. I mean, you don't have to, obviously, but like that's kind of the natural pathway forward. That's been the traditional way. And I started taking pictures in high school, and looking back, yikes, of course, took pictures throughout college, doing mainly like photojournalism work for local publications. And so I've just been doing it for a long time, and thankfully I still really like it. But I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, if I wanted to pivot, I've really like stayed in this lane for a long time. But I think what I really love about my job right now and why I'm really happy is it feels like the projects that I liked to do as a little kid, like building these little random sets and thinking about like making little movies. And of course it's on like more of an upscale level, but it does feel like I get to be a kid at work. And I know that like I definitely have not said that before about other jobs, and so I feel really lucky in that regard.
That makes me really happy. Yeah, because you have always been so creative, and like obviously knowing you as a kid, it does feel in line with it, and that's really cool. Also, if you wanted to pivot, you do have proof of concept, like, hey, I can make dope shit, and if you want to do something different, you'll be able to prove that you can make that too.
Hey, I appreciate that, buddy.
So just don't you worry. But yeah, that's really cool. You are very good at what you do. I mean, it's fucking cool to see.
Thanks, my guy.
Yeah. Oh.
And it's interesting because it is like, okay, yeah, I could pivot within the creative world, I think. But sometimes I'm like, wait, maybe I want to be a teacher. And, you know, we got nothing but time until we don't. And that's kind of it. But it is like, whoa, to pivot lanes. But people go back to school all the time. People do internships. And so, yeah, I'm not trying to discourage you listeners out there from feeling like you're stuck in your lane.
Not to take this on a negative note, but what has been the hardest part about getting where you are in your career?
I think I maybe haven't gotten to what I think the hardest part will be or would be, because right now I'm in-house, which means I'm salaried, work Monday through Friday, sometimes a little bit on the weekend with this company, and there's a lot of stability in that. Like when I clock out, like I'm not thinking about work unless it's in a fun way. And then on the flip side of that, I feel like you look at freelancers who are hustling and they're like making, you know, their money's worth out of it usually, but it is like 24/7 you are on that and networking. And I think eventually that seems like a realm that I'd be excited to be in, because being within the same jewelry company, I mean, it you know, 3 years in almost, it can get a bit redundant. And freelance, I think, offers such a variety of different mediums and types of like subject material that you can work with. But I also, and I don't mean this in a bad way, like freelancers are egotistical, but I do think you have to have a level of self-admiration for your work and belief in your work, which is a really beautiful thing and a positive thing. I think I definitely have a really hard time selling myself as like worthy of people, you know, purchasing my work and purchasing my labor. It's kind of like with an in-house thing. You interview and you keep, you know, maintaining, and people like you and like your work enough. But freelance is kind of, you're always in the spotlight, like, okay, prove it. And I think I super respect it, but I think that would be so damn hard.
That does sound really hard. Well, if you ever do go on that path, just come hang out with me, because I'll just tell you how much you should be charging. I'll be like, charge $7 billion. What advice would you give to somebody who wants to get started in your industry?
Ooh.
And I guess either, you know, trying to do what you do, like be in-house somewhere, or start as a freelancer. Like maybe they're two different, but it could just kind of be like general advice.
Yeah. I think, I mean, it's so hard because obviously, especially like to live in LA, and like you listeners might be anywhere, but you have to pay your rent and bills, and it is not cheap. And like, you can't really just like take a minute and be like, okay, I'm going to work on my portfolio. But as much as that sounds lame, like while you have your other job that is paying the bills, I think like chip away slowly but surely at building out that proof of concept that I was talking about, of like doing test shoots and like things that feel exciting. And like it might be on an evening or it might be on a Sunday, like this kind of like bonus, you know, extra work on top of your old stuff. And I think one, that helps you hone in on your craft, and two, gives you work that you can show to people. But yeah, I think just like dedicate time to honing in on your craft a little more and creating tangible productions of your work that you can share with people.
That's really good advice and like inspiring.
And there has to be so much patience in it, because I think so often you like see the type of job you want and then you think like anything below that is like, well, wait, it's not quite. And like that's super fair to like keep aiming for what you really want, but I think trusting the process, that like those little building block steps of creating your portfolio and doing little jobs here and there, like that all adds up to a bigger thing eventually that might be your dream job.
Hell yeah. Okay, speaking of dream job, if you could wave a magic wand and do like something completely different, and we don't need to have school, like it doesn't, like no practical things are involved. So like if it's like you want to be an astronaut, that's fine.
Okay, love. I feel like that question is always within the realm of like, if you could like go to school and do all this stuff over, but it's like if I could wave a magic wand.
Yeah, like you start tomorrow.
Wow.
And you're good at it.
Honestly, I think be a teacher. I think that would be so. We come from a line of teachers. Like my dad was a high school teacher,
And like the best one.
yeah, I think the challenge of like taking a concept and like breaking it down in a way that feels tangible to all different types of learners, like in a way that feels fulfilling and exciting, that is so fun. I love the idea of that. And I think just interacting with people, especially kids, one of my favorite parts of my job right now is like seeing my coworkers every day. And I think the teaching and education community is so full and rich of that. So I think maybe a teacher.
Wow, that's really beautiful. Because I don't know, I guess I don't really think about teachers that often, except in the context of like teachers are so underpaid, or like teachers are being censored by fucking stupid politicians. You know, I'm not thinking about how cool it is to be a teacher. You just got me inspired about the children of tomorrow. Okay, here's another question. What advice would you give to yourself 5 years ago?
Oh, I'm loving these questions. I think this year I'm finally recognizing how much of my life I've lived internally in terms of like black and white, and how much that has fueled anxiety and perfectionism, and yeah, kind of anything that feels hard in my life is fueled by this like idea that it has to live in this like dichotomy of like either it's good or it's bad. Or like last year I was really anxious. I was having a lot of anxiety, and I was really in this state of like, okay, my mental health is either in a good place or a bad place. And if there's a tiny flare up or I'm having an anxious day, that immediately puts me in the bad category. And I think looking back, that kind of template of putting things in one of two extremes has existed since I was a really little kid. So I think 5 years ago, I mean, who knows how well I would have listened or if it would have been effective, but I think I would have just tried to help myself move out of that really stark thinking in which it's either all or nothing. Because what sucks about that type of thinking is it's actually never all or nothing. So you're kind of just forever in this like nebulous zone of like thinking it should be in somewhere else and it never is. So just being accepting and patient of where you're at today. And it doesn't have to fit in a little zone.
That's really good advice, and also something I'm learning right now too, because it's so true. Like your brain like loves to grasp onto like either it's this or it's this. Yeah. And it's like, well, often it's gonna be neither, and you're gonna drive yourself crazy.
And I think it like also helps build compassion for people, because I think when we're holding ourselves within that black and white dichotomy of like good or bad, nice or not, we tend to hold other people in that way too. And it's like, if someone wrongs you or someone does something strange, you kind of just like, you don't have to put them in that category. It's like, okay, that's like a piece of the whole puzzle that I can, you know, log in there as information to have. But yeah, it's like everyone's just having their day.
That's very good advice, Abbo. You're smart.
Thanks,
You're a
boss.
good
You too.
Young buck.
First time in a goddamn couple months.
What's the best advice you've ever gotten?
Ooh, I would say the most recent best advice I've gotten was from this book called Untethered Soul. A portion of it's quite woo-woo and like religious, which I didn't tap much into, but it talks about in times of like turbulence and anxiety that we so often like don't trust our bodies and fear our own thoughts and like don't trust that there's this core identity that will carry us through. And it offered kind of this, I don't know if you could call it a meditation, but this visual imagery of if you sit with yourself and close your eyes and try to sink down into like what your true self is behind your thoughts. Because you're not your thoughts. You're not also what you're saying. There is a kind of nebulous entity behind all of that. And for me, I'm a visual thinker. And so I imagine internally somewhere like deep kind of in my chest, there's this like really gorgeous, beautiful glass wall. And there's my true essence is this identity and person sitting behind it. And I'm just observing the like waves and motions, like at a lighthouse, like smashing up against this glass. And I can observe them, but I also don't have to embody them as me. Like these are feelings that are passing in front of me and somewhat through me, but there is that identity. And I think that's a really, like, I'd never clocked that, okay, wait, there actually is a full nother layer behind the thoughts that is this consciousness. And that has brought me so much peace in times of like fights with people, in times of anxiety, depression, like uncertainty, is that it's like this beautiful little person is like walking with us every single day and is consistent and true, and you don't question it when you like tap into it. It just exists.
Wow.
So I think that's the most helpful advice I've gotten recently.
Wow, that was really crazy. I've never thought about that either. I mean, like, I guess I have thought, like, oh, this is me processing this thought.
Yeah.
You know, like, there's a true you in there. But I love that.
Yeah. Wait, I'm so glad. Yeah, and it is surprising how, like, maybe not for everybody, but I'd say how, like, easy it is to kind of feel that essence. Because it is kind of this, like, completely calm, unworried entity that you can't really put a finger on, but you feel it to be really true.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, but also it's not always easy to channel that. So totally.
No, but it's cool. I'm like thinking now, like, your essence is like, this is getting too woo woo, but it's like, that's like your soul. And then maybe your consciousness is your human filtering of your soul.
Whoa, yeah.
But then there's that other layer that's like at the core of everything. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's like, wait, that's the human filtering. It is so true. Yeah. I'm glad it resonated.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's this book, Untethered Soul, and he does probably a million times better way describing it, but I really recommend it.
Okay, but you just described it to them.
That's so true. Yeah, just listen to Haddles House.
Yeah, that's right. Do you have a motto or like a philosophy?
I actually got asked this on my like work performance questionnaire recently. And it took me goddamn like 4 days to come up with a motto. And I can't even remember. But I honestly don't have a motto. Do you have a motto?
I think my motto is, if you're not weird, you're hiding something.
Me 1000%.
Like, I just love weirdos and people who are like, I'm not weird, I'm very normal. I'm like, you're a freak.
Yeah, you're like,
those are the people who are like actually weird.
Yeah, it's like you're horrifying to be around, actually.
Yeah.
You're like, tolerance is the wrong word, but like your acceptance of all walks of life is quite profound, and I love it because there are so many, like, the amount of people you draw into your life, I think, due to lack of judgment towards them. You have like the most gorgeous set of characters in your life, and I love that.
Oh, thank you. I guess I do have characters in my life. I love people's quirks. That's like why I wanted to do this podcast, because I'm just like, I like love knowing what makes people tick. I just think it's so like cool.
Do you feel, because I think I always get nervous, like when there's a get to know you game somewhere and they're like, tell us a fun fact. I feel like you have 1 million off the top of your head. Or does that question also make you nervous?
No, it kind of makes me nervous too, just because I'm like, I don't know. I guess the fun fact I usually go with is one of my sisters is 31 years older than me.
That is a fun and crazy fact.
Do you have a fun fact, or are you stressed?
I'm like asking my most stressful question. I mean, you also did this. So it's like, is it a fun fact if the guy sitting next to me also did it? But
Yeah.
we both went to this school in the Bahamas. Hadley did it first. I found out about it through her. But you practice throughout the duration of your time there, and you either run a half marathon or you swim 4 miles in the ocean. And we both swam 4 miles in the ocean. I don't think I'll ever do something like that again. I guess that's my fun fact.
That is a really fun fact. Wait, so you were 17 then?
I maybe turned 17 when I was there.
Crazy. So I was in college. I was like a young delinquent. And you were like president of the school. Can you talk about it a little bit?
Oh.
Am I putting you on the spot?
I mean, I was just I think I was just so anxious internally that I was like, I don't want to do drugs. I don't want to drink. Also, my sibling definitely had some like substance and alcohol issues in my formative years. I think that further drove me the other way. But I was in student government. I was the president of the middle school. It was a whole rigmarole. But
Weren't you also president in high school?
no, I was in student government, I think for like 2 or 3 years, but no, I think after the island school, I was like, I don't want to be here anymore.
And then you had a really cool beekeeping or bee saving initiative.
Yeah, I was into beekeeping and like started this organization that started like a bee education program at like local camps and got funding from the Rotary. I don't know where the drive internally came from to like help and be in all these. I was in like tobacco free youth group, dude.
Wow.
Like, as like my siblings like chain smoking on the back porch of our parents' house, I'm like hanging up signs at playgrounds being like smoke free zone.
Oh, cute.
But I mean, could not have been more of an arc vibe.
I'm imagining like, you know, those like hair clips that give you a Karen hairstyle. I'm imagining that you with like that and a clipboard and like a little reflective vest. Knowing you then, you weren't a narc. You were so earnest.
I really genuinely deep down was like interested in policy change that would like be healthy and like save the dying bee population. And cigarettes are so bad. Like, it wasn't like I want you to be in trouble. It was like, but wait, you're just a little bambini.
Yeah. No, that lines up with who you are today.
But it's like, listen, if you need to smoke a cigarette in front of me, I'll just turn a blind eye.
Oh yeah, you can't see it, but I'm on my 12th cigarette.
Yeah, little Mr. Chain Smoker right here.
Can you tell me something you have nerdy knowledge about?
Nerdy knowledge about. Okay, I don't know much about it technically, but I'm obsessed with rocks. There is no other high than going to the beach after a big storm and rock piles are washed up. It's like the world's best treasure hunt that never ends, and it also is like constantly turning over. The other day I found my first piece of red sea glass.
Whoa.
Which is super rare. And there's a funny thing my girlfriend and I say, my girlfriend Lena started this, that if you find a piece of sea glass that like hasn't been like softened on the edges, like it's still kind of sharp, it's like a baby. It's like in the wild when you're hunting, you can't kill the babies because you'll ruin the population. You have to toss the not smoothed out sea glass back. So I'm tossing a lot back in. So
was the red one a baby?
Thankfully the red one was smooth, super tiny, super smooth. It looked like a perfect rounded teardrop. I'll show it to you sometime.
Okay, yeah, I'd love to see it.
Definitely.
That's so cool.
And now that you got me going on sea glass, there's a really rare type of sea glass called pirate's glass. And it's actually black sea glass.
Whoa.
That looks like a rock unless you hold it up to the light, and then it has like a grayish greenish tint, but it's like you would never know. So that's the rarest one.
Wow. Okay, give me a couple more sea glass facts.
Oh, I think it takes 40 years for broken glass to turn into sea glass. Wow. My girlfriend's mom, Miri, will throw handfuls of broken glass into the ocean to replenish the stock.
That's so sweet.
I'm like, as people are like, she like throws it into like the shallows of like the beach.
That is so fucking sweet of her to be throwing broken glass all over the beach.
Perfect.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are, I guess I maybe know a few more sea glass facts than I thought, but I would say sea glass.
I love sea glass, but I've never like thought about sea glass.
The amount of money I'd pay to be able to have a tiny piece of sea glass and have like a tracker, like a scan of information that tells me exactly one, where it's been in the ocean, where it came from, and like what it was formerly used. Like it's just this tiny trace fragment of maybe some crazy history that you've no idea is you're holding in your tiny little hand.
Your tiny little hand. That is really cool.
Thanks, boss.
Have you ever seen a ghost?
No.
Do you believe in ghosts?
I do. I think not in the like very tangible sense that some people do, in which they're like kind of moving things around and like physically affecting our lives, but I definitely believe in spirit and energy and that effect on us. So I'd say yes.
But you've never like had an interaction with one?
No, I don't think. My mom did, and dad, which I feel like when it's in tandem, you got like two sources confirming.
Yeah.
Right after her dad, my grandpa, died, he smoked cigars his whole life. I think it was like the day after he died, she woke up in the middle of the night and their whole room smelled of the cigars that he smoked.
What?
And she woke up my dad and he smelled it too.
What?
No, I mean, who knows? Who knows? The brain does crazy things, but there's also definitely stuff out there we can't.
That's crazy that they both smelled it. Do you believe in signs from the universe? And like, what's an example of one?
I don't know if I believe in like the universe sending you like a specific sign, but I very much trust that like things work out as they're meant to. Like to trust the process, and but there is kind of like an external agenda happening around us that we don't have control over. But I don't know if I've ever had like a blaring sign from the universe.
So you're not into like 1111 or like 333 or 444?
I went to my first spin class ever and probably never again the other day, and my favorite number is 4, and I was put on bike number 4. And then I went to the coffee shop and I was given number 4 as my waiting number back to back. And I'm not always a very practical person, but I'm like, statistically, we're just seeing our favorite numbers because we're looking for them. But to happen back to back like that, I'm like, that's a special little treat.
Yeah, I think that's very special. Yeah. I'm actually kind of surprised you don't really believe in signs. You kind of feel like a whimsical
lass.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not anti them. Like, I wouldn't be like, they don't exist. But I've never had a personal experience with them. Wait, do you have sign? What's like your most palpable sign you've received from the universe?
I like make up my own signs. Like, I'm big on 1111. Mini Cooper convertibles are lucky. Like, if I'm driving and I see a Mini Cooper convertible, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make a little wish.
Cute.
And I see them a lot, so it's a nice one. And if I look up at the sky and I see a hawk flying, that's good luck.
Oh my god, wait.
It's kind of like, I don't know. I love little totems.
It's kind of like, 1, why not?
Yeah.
And 2, that just makes you feel more connected.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of like the fun thing is you can kind of just choose whatever you want, and then every time you see it, you're like, oh, that's like a god wink, you know?
Like a god wink.
Okay, we were on our break, so we started talking about flirting is weird. What do you think your flirting style is?
I was talking to my girlfriend about this the other day, that I have a side where I can be like really charming and smooth, and then I have a side where it's like the most rizzless person on the fucking planet.
Oh, I like rizzless.
Rizzless. Okay, so Lena and I were friends first for a long time, and then in that interim period of like bridging the gap to dating, it was like, okay, who's gonna make the first move? It was a New Year's Eve party, and we went together. We like Ubered together, and at the end of the night, I would like to say, and they'll confirm, was quite charming and hopefully rizzful, and was like, hey, like, we came together, let's go home together.
Ooh.
And then so we go back to their apartment, and then I just lose it. It goes all out the fucking window. The Rizz is gone the second I walk in the door. It's like someone took over my body. I, dude, straight up put on their sound-canceling headphones. And I walked into their apartment, put them on, and was like, okay, let's play a game. I was like, you say something. And they were like, what? It was horrible.
And they're like trying to hook up with you, and you're like, okay, TikTok challenge.
Yeah, literally TikTok challenge style. And then, but no filming. And then it was so fucking bad, dude. We went to bed, not really touching, and then I proceeded to get the worst heartburn.
Oh, no.
And also the first time I've ever had heartburn, which
oh, whoa,
feels kind of like heart attack vibes.
Yeah.
Like crazy chest, back pain, like what is going on with my lungs and heart. And in the middle of the night, I was freaking out so bad, thinking I was dying. I started calling an Uber, and they woke up mid me calling the Uber.
Oh my God.
And they were like, "Are you calling an Uber right now?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, I don't feel so good." And then I ran out in my pajamas, like carrying all my New Year's Eve clothes. I was like, "Okay, bye."
Oh.
But now we're dating. But I have a pattern of not feeling awesome in the nighttime, like getting a stomach ache or something and feeling like I need to leave a situation. And this has happened multiple times on like one night stands, like first dates. Like I stay over in the middle of the night, I like get up and leave.
Whoa.
And people think it's like some player,
Yeah, that
like
is like
sketchy
a
move, and
that's
I'm
a
literally
fuckboy
like
move.
at home, like shaking, digging through my drawer for Pepto-Bismol. It's never Rizzful.
Wow, maybe fuckboys just have tummy issues.
Oh no, boss, not a fuck.
I'm not calling you a fuckboy. I'm just saying like that is a fuckboy move. Like if somebody slept
Oh, I
over
see.
and then they like left in the middle of the night, I'd be like, wow, fuckboy. But maybe they're not fuckboys. Maybe they're sweethearts who just have tummy
Yeah.
problems.
And I'm kind of like, a sweetheart boy might never admit that he had a tummy problem.
Wow.
I'll tell anyone though the next day.
Wow, you are so sweet. Do you have like a worst first date story? It doesn't have to be yours. Like, have you heard of like a really bad first date? You can't use mine, obviously.
Yes. I'm obviously in a relationship now, but I think first dates are so fun. I think third dates are really scary. But worst first date, I'm taking it way back.
Okay.
I was in college, was home for the summer, and I matched with this guy, and he was like, "Oh, you should like come over to my house." I get over there, and then I literally sit down in his bed. On his bed, I'm not making
Stop.
this up, a plate of hot tater tots piled. And
Ew. On his bed?
yeah, and then he, well, on a plate, but on his bed.
Still.
And then he's like, "Oh my God, help yourself." I was like,
Yeah, because that's the problem here is I wasn't sure if I could have some of your giant mound of tater tots.
your giant tots. I was like, definitely you've cleared some stuff up. Perfect.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, moving on forward. There are like probably 15 to 20 empty dip cans.
Ew.
Like around, like riddling his bedside floor. Like,
Yeah.
as a tobacco-free youth formerly. And then the final straw was he had a hunting knife unsheathed on just the headboard of his bed.
What?
Just like balanced. Literally, the knife was going one way or the other.
Oh my God.
I can't remember. I think we made out for a second, and then I left.
Thank God.
But that was probably the worst first date.
That is a really, really bad one. Wait, when you say hunting knife, how big are we talking?
Probably like 5-6 inches, and it has like the really like serrated edge.
I have chills.
Yeah,
I was on his headboard. That guy was gonna gut you.
Gonna get gutted.
He was hoping to get up in your
upstairs.
guts and then take out your gut. Oh.
But yeah, that was probably my worst first date.
Wow. Do you have a favorite conspiracy theory?
I come to you for those. Like, I'm wondering about what you're thinking about that, because I never really think about them.
Like a good one is Avril Lavigne's body double.
Okay.
Like, and it can be anything.
Okay, probably the Avril Lavigne body double one. That one is so, and I am always like, okay, who's fact checking this? But there are discrepancies.
Isn't she shorter now?
Short, there's a height discrepancy. But now with her like album release, I'm kind of like, okay, could fake Avril well, AI could do that. Wait, what's your most believable conspiracy theory?
I mean, okay, one that I like that's not going to incriminate me too much is the Mandela effect.
Wait, can you explain that one to me?
So, have you seen Everything Everywhere All at Once?
Yes.
Okay, that's like the multiverse theories.
Uh-huh.
It's like everything's happening at the same time. The Mandela effect theory is basically like at some point whoever they are, like the people running the Matrix or whatever, like fucked something up and it created two parallel timelines. So some of us remember things from the old timeline that don't exist in this timeline. And so like it's called the Mandela effect because thousands of people remember where they were when Nelson Mandela died in the 90s. And it's like, he obviously didn't die then, he died in 2014, but there are other ones like the Berenstein Bears. Yes. People say it's spelled differently now, and like people do have things from the 90s that have it spelled the old way, or like the Fruit of the Loom. People have turned up t-shirts that you can tell they're like old that have the cornucopia on the tag.
Was the cornucopia not a thing?
No, the cornucopia supposedly never existed.
Dude, what?
And I
can see it in my mind right now.
Yeah. The robber emoji never existed.
What?
And you can picture it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the robber emoji never existed.
Are you serious?
Okay, the Monopoly guy never had a monocle.
What the hell?
Right?
What?
The robber emoji didn't exist.
That one is really freaky.
That's like the one I think that fucks me up the most.
That one, I picture that exact thing.
Yeah. Oh, actually I was wrong. The craziest one is, okay, you know the Britney Spears? I think it's Oops, I Did It Again. The red thing. Yeah. You can picture her outfit, right? Can you describe it?
I might be like kind of slightly too young to fully remember, but I think it was like long sleeves, red.
Did she have like a black headset?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So everyone remembers that. There were like Barbies made at the time that had the black headset. People's Halloween costumes that had the headset. Like,
no.
That is the costume. In the music video, she doesn't have a black headset.
What the fuck?
And everyone's like, no, but she did though. Like, we all remember that. And she didn't.
What the fuck?
So like, we're in the wrong timeline. Like, things are off.
Wait, that's so freaky.
Isn't that a good one?
Whoa, you got me convinced.
I have a couple more questions. Is that okay?
Yeah, if you're down,
Do you know your attachment style?
Okay, I've been feeling very confused about my attachment style. And my therapist tells me you can be both. And I'd love to hear your take on this. I think my behavior is avoidant.
Okay.
But I think internally it's stemming from anxiety. But is that just what avoidance is?
Well, it's interesting, actually, that you say this, because Charlie, who I interviewed last week, said the exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And in thinking about it, I think avoidance is really just like a one-dimensional thing, because most people don't avoid stuff just because they're like, I'm an asshole, shut it down. Like, most people avoid stuff because they're anxious about it.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
What I'm always confused about, though, is like, okay, go back to like 2 years ago when I was dating people, and I had a really big crush on someone who like didn't really like me back as much, and they would ask me to hang out and I'd be stoked and I'd definitely say yes, but then I'd like play it so cool to like kind of a fault, I feel, where I like would refuse to hit them up, like play really avoidant vibes. But I'm like, is that just anxious playing games?
I don't know.
And then when I'm in something secure, I definitely get avoidant. I think I kind of crave the high lows, and it's easy for me to be like, wait, it's too stable, too safe.
You're a Gemini.
Gemini style. Because you feel like you're anxious attached?
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely not a securely attached person. I'm like, I haven't seen them in 3 minutes. They probably have changed their mind about everything.
Is that how it feels?
Not always. Definitely in my past relationships. I've done a lot of work in the last year and a half since my last relationship. Now I feel much more secure. I have had to relearn how to be, and I think what are the options? Anxious, avoidant, secure, disorganized?
Yeah, I'm always like, is it disorganized or anxious avoidant combo? I'm like, it's maybe a little bit of everything sometimes.
Yeah, but I don't think you're just avoidant to be avoidant. I think it sounds like it's a combination of like anxiety and just
fear of rejection and abandon.
That's actually one of the big takeaways I've had from just the couple interviews I've done so far, is I've learned a lot about anxious avoidant attachment, which is so interesting because that has been a pattern that I keep dating people who are anxious avoidant, and people keep coming in and being like, I'm anxious avoidant, here's what's going on behind the scenes, and I'm like, whoa.
You're like, wait, oh my god, wait, you don't just hate me and like you want me to fuck off? Yeah, it is like to hear someone say what it's like on the other side. Definitely, that's different. Yeah,
so that is a perfect segue into my other question, which is, what do you think your most toxic trait is? And you don't have to like incriminate yourself. And it's a running joke that your toxic trait can be, I can't think of anything toxic about myself. Like, that's allowed.
Like, that's a toxic trait.
That's toxic enough. You don't have to incriminate yourself, but if you can think of something, it's kind of fun.
I mean, this is boring, but I think just like people pleasing can definitely not intentionally end in a toxic thing. But yeah, I'm definitely prioritizing my comfort over sometimes like being honest with people and like trying to manage like multiple emotions and people and dynamics in a way that like everyone just gets upset and like it's definitely toxic. But I don't mean to, but I could be better about it.
I mean, that's a really good one. And I think that's very honest. Like, I think a lot of people do that. And I used to do that. And I was like, but no one is pleased.
You said wait, and I'm also deeply not pleased. I mean, I'd say one of the biggest things that I would love to learn more from you is I think I'm a little bit stuck in the people pleaser realm.
I think you'll get there. It wasn't like anything happened. I think just one day I was like, oh, I'm not gonna not say the thing that I want to say anymore to like try to work around other people's perceived feelings, because it's kind of like, all right, either you're unhappy or I'm unhappy, and I don't even know that you're gonna be unhappy. I don't know.
Also, something you said there, perceived feelings, I think is super key, because it is like we are kind of always assuming like the other person's reaction and their sensitivities, and like I think something I've been trying to lean more into is like trusting people and giving them the benefit of the doubt that like if they have an issue with how you address them, like they'll tell you and then you'll go from there.
Exactly. Yeah. And I do think it just takes out the extra step, especially because I'm anxious and I'm like, oh, I'm imagining that someone's going to be like mad or something. And like they probably don't care.
Yeah, I think I want to control how situations play out so that like I don't feel uncomfortable. But that doesn't lead to genuine, authentic relationships.
Yeah.
So I'm working on it. Do you have one? Or?
I have a lot.
Whoa.
I have a really hard time opening up to people.
Uh-huh.
That's pretty toxic. Like, I think I'm a very open person, but I think to like really get to know me, that's really hard. And I have a lot of walls up. And so I think when those walls are up, I can be kind of like callous.
I was self-protective and like, yeah. I don't know if this is actually a thing or like just something a friend of mine made up, but ways to describe people as hardcover open book, soft cover closed book, soft cover open book. So like what you're describing about yourself would be soft cover closed book. Like you have the kind of facade of like very like vulnerable and open maybe. Is if
that's really interesting. No, that's just like kind of blowing my mind. Hold on, I need to think about it. Okay, so it's hardcover open book, hardcover closed book, soft cover open book, soft cover closed book.
Yeah.
I think which one do you think I am?
I was gonna say soft cover closed book. I hadn't heard what you just said. I would have said that I think you're maybe hardcover open book.
Yeah.
Because I think like you definitely aren't like just being like, oh my god, like happy like people pleaser. You're like, what's up? Like what's going like what's, and then once you feel trusting and down, you're like the most open guy in the world, it feels. Does that feel true?
That feels true. Which one do you think you are?
I think I'm soft cover closed book.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Because I think I have this like assumption of myself that I'm super open book, but I've recently figured out that I don't talk about my emotions until I've figured them out, I think.
That's fair though, right? How are you supposed to talk about it until you figured it out?
I guess more like figured out like what they mean, why they're happening, and like until I've like very analyzed them and like put them in boxes versus just being like, I'm having this feeling.
I don't want to invalidate what you're saying about yourself, but I like don't experience you that way at all. I feel like you're very good at being like, yeah, I don't know, I'm having this like weird thing.
Oh, thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just because you're my big buck.
But you mean like with like friends and...
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Definitely. Soft cover, closed book.
Okay, I have like two more. Is that cool?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Do you know what your love language is? Kind of going off of attachment style.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think... Because it's different, like, what you want to receive and what you give, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think what I give is physical touch, acts of service, What are the other ones? Gift giving, quality time.
Quality time, gift giving, acts of service,
Words of affirmation.
physical touch.
I think my main two are physical touch and acts of service. And I think I like to receive words of affirmation and physical touch, I think. And I think that maybe speaks a little bit to like me leaning towards thinking I'm avoidant. Because I think I'm a very chatty person, but when it comes down to like love feelings, to communicate that verbally can feel really complicated.
It is complicated.
I'm like, that is for a pat on the back. Just kidding.
Okay, I have one last question.
Uh-huh.
Is there something that you have always accepted to be true that ended up being false? You've already given us an example of one, I guess, with the like not everything is black and white, but yeah.
Oh.
Like a paradigm shift.
Is that where your like understanding of existence and like perception of the world changes?
Yeah, it's like a major lens through which you see the world shifts.
Oh, yeah. I feel like I went through one of those in like the last year or two. I started having a lot of death anxiety and like reality anxiety. I have OCD, and I got in this like really fixated chapter of what's called existential OCD, where you fixate on if your surroundings around you are real and if you can prove it. And it's kind of like this like weird pinnacle form of OCD, because OCD is always around things that you can't prove, and like you really can't prove anything, and the existence of the world is quite hard to prove.
That's so meta.
And so it is kind of this like final challenge of your brain to accept this like really uncertain thing. And it terrified the shit out of me for literally like a year and a half. Like, was, you know, couldn't look up at the clouds without having intrusive thoughts about like, what if this is fake? And I've finally gotten to a point where I was able to see that like, okay, nothing actually has changed outside of my head. Like, these thoughts are not based in anything like changing around me, my like experiences. And so just having to say like, literally, and what? Like, okay, and yeah, so what if that is a scary thought? And it's all about control. It's like, I think letting go of like this idea that it's like, oh, well, of course the world's exactly how I see it. And I'm not suggesting that I think the world's fake and we're all in a matrix sequence, but like,
We could be.
we could be, and that's okay. Like, I still feel awake every day and have my same experiences and feel like this is my reality. And just because it might be different than I think it's, does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. Yeah, like even if it is all the Matrix and it's like a video game, like you can still like not let those worries like overtake you, and you can just still have a great little life.
Yeah, I can still feel love and heartbreak and taste good food and like go to sleep and have dreams and learn. And it's kind of like, Matrix or not, this is my life and it's not forever, but I'm having a good time and it doesn't super matter.
Wow.
So, but it took a good chapter of feeling so scared to be like, wait, what am I actually afraid of?
I like that you said like the pinnacle of OCD and the pinnacle of anxiety, because it's so true. It's like, that is what anxiety is. It's like, prove me wrong. And it's like, you can't, so I win and I'm evil. And like, now you can, it's like those loops and like that like looping anxiety. And so like, yeah, the idea like the final boss is like, what if your reality isn't real? And it's like, fuck.
Yeah. And because I think with other, and not saying like, oh, I've had the hardest for most like people.
I mean, listen, everyone's OCD is the hardest OCD.
Yeah, for real.
I've never been diagnosed with OCD, but I think I have it.
The way you've talked about like how like your looping thoughts sometimes work, and something I learned in the last couple of years actually is that there's such like a tangible like act tied to OCD, like doing a physical compulsion, but there is like a type of OCD that is just mental rituals where rumination is your compulsion. So
I mean, I 1,000% have that.
Yeah.
I also like going back to middle school and lower school, I had compulsions. Every time someone said, oh my God, in like second or third grade, I'd go, sometimes out loud, usually in my head, shh, sorry, Lord. And I'm not religious.
Wow.
Every time someone said it. That's weird. I've never told anyone that.
Wait, really?
Is that OCD?
Oh, definitely. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
no,
not
like,
a therapist.
no, but like if I told my therapist that, they would probably be like, yeah,
definitely.
you have OCD, bro.
Because it's this fixation and like this internal urge that like if you do not do something bad will happen. And it's like, well, something bad could happen, so I'm like covering my bases.
Your brain's just like, it just like won't stop, and like you're having conversations with people and your brain's like, hey.
Yeah, they're like yanking you over here. And I see OCD in a lot of ways as like trying to prove something that like isn't necessarily logical, but like in your brain, like for example, like my existential OCD, like I'd look at the clouds and be like, that doesn't feel real, and so then I'd have to do a compulsion as to like why the world's real, and so like trying to neutralize these things, which is hard because for in the moment it makes them it soothes them. It's kind of like putting like hydrocortisone on the wrong itch. Like it'll make it better but then worse.
Yeah.
But OCD, it really is just resisting going down it, and sometimes you have to resist it like 200 times in an hour.
Wow.
But eventually it gets there. And I will say for me, medication helps a lot.
Me too. Medication is key.
Yeah.
But that you like defeated the final boss.
I mean, on hard days it still will creep in and be like, hey, remember that thing that you used to think about a lot?
Oh my God, my brain does that too. It's like, hey, you notice how you've been feeling happy recently?
Yeah.
What if?
Yeah, like, and I think that goes back, I guess this is what I put in that category of like, I had this perception when I was having all that anxiety that I was like, okay, if I'm not feeling my perfect homeostasis of like no anxiety, blissed out, never having bad thoughts, never having intrusive thoughts, that's the only like good. And anything that deviates a little bit from that, but then it allows no room for like, so I think when my brain tries to poke in, it's be like, okay, welcome to the party. Let's see what happens.
Wow. I'm so glad we're talking about this because it's so like everything you're saying. And I don't know how many of our listeners will relate to this because like you and I do happen to have like the same like in general like mental whatever. But like I think that is so relatable, like all the stuff about anxiety and like black or white and I'm so glad we're talking about this.
Me too. I just feel like as a kid it was just like it's such an isolating and confusing feeling, and like I think is what fueled that lack of trust of my body and brain, because it feels like your brain's working against you. Like it really feels like there's kind of this internal enemy that like doesn't have your best intentions in mind. Not to go so deep into this, but one of my favorite things that a therapist told me when I was going through dissociative anxiety and all that stuff was she's like, these like big body feelings that you have, like your body doesn't have vocal words to describe its feelings to you and what it needs. And so the stuff that we push down, your body's going to find a way to ask for help in a way that's probably quite uncomfortable. And she described it as a poorly written love letter, where she's like, your body's still trying to catch up on like how best to talk to you about these things, but it's not trying to be evil to you.
Wow. I really like that.
I know, I was like, because I think that helps repair a little bit of this like, what the fuck body, like what are you doing to me?
Yeah.
And more like this compassion of like, damn, you're like, we're all in this one thing together.
Me, my essence, my human filter, and my body are all, it's true though. Your body is carrying you and it does love you, but it's kind of like our soul. Okay, this is me being like really, but like it's kind of like your soul is like an interplanetary visitor and your body is your like human meat suit that's like on Earth, and you're like kind of trying to navigate like this lifetime with it, and it be weird.
Sometimes it's not making sense, and sometimes the brain chemistry is just giving you a damn hard time. But this episode could be called the Holy Trinity: your essence, your meat suit, and your human filter.
I mean, I think it has to be.
Um,
Um,
but yeah, I'm glad if you ever want to talk about OCD stuff.
I'd love to.
So much, I think, I mean, obviously we know there's like so much stigma around mental health, and all sorts of types of mental health have that like untalked about element to them, but OCD, intrusive thoughts, are like really target the opposite of your value system, and I think make it really isolating and scary to want to be in community about it and like ask for help, because you're like, wait, these thoughts that are actually the antithesis of who I think I am.
Yeah.
So normalize chatting about it. Love to see
Seriously.
it.
I mean, thank you for being so brave about it, because
Oh,
I think you're also like opening up space. Like, I went from being like, I don't know, I might have OCD, to being like, and here's how my OCD impacted me as
yes,
a
wow,
child.
literally my essence, my meat suit, my little human filter.
Yeah.
Literally, yeah.
Abby, I like want to keep you all night and keep asking you questions,
Okay.
but this has been so great.
Oh my god, I loved chatting with you, big buck.
I love you. Thank you for coming and being so thoughtful and open and interesting.
There
Also, if you're
was,
listening to this, thank you so much for listening to this.
yeah, wow, literally all the way through.
Hopefully, you learned something. If you did, could you comment if you learned something? That would be so nice.
I feel like we both learned a bunch of stuff about each other and
I
like
know.
deepened our relationship and friendship. And I think that's so cool. Like all these questions you like never ask people.
Thank
This
you
was
so
so
much for
fun.
coming.
Yeah, boss, thanks for having me.